We also have a question about how an alpine fault earthquake could impact our coastal populations down here in the South Island. So Matt asks, what will be the impacts to major coastal population areas in New Zealand following an alpine fault quake? Caroline Augustin, what does the AF8 hazard scenario tell us about potential impacts to the South Island's coastal populations?
Yeah, Matt, that's a really, really great question. I would start by saying that when you're thinking about sort of coastlines, dune areas, low-lying, sort of silty, sandy kind of sediments, there's likely to be significant ground shaking that will generate liquefaction. So I think we all are familiar with what liquefaction is in terms of the ejection of fluid and sand out of the ground, and we saw a lot of that after the Christchurch earthquakes. And there are people on this call that are absolute experts in liquefaction. So if they want to talk more about that, then go ahead. I guess the other thing is, we often think of coastlines and big earthquakes and we worry about tsunami. And with the alpine fault scenario that the AF8 science team put together a few years ago, tsunami wasn't one of the hazards that we were anticipating. And that's because the alpine fault is, for the most part, on land. It doesn't go offshore or off the coast until way down in Milford Sound. So there is potential for a localized tsunami event down in the Milford Sound area, which could impact Milford Sound itself. But in terms of the rest of the West Coast coastline, unlikely to generate a significant tsunami event. I'd probably bring in terms of other physical, hazards generated by this earthquake, the sort of need to think about lake margins and rivers, because of course there are lots of alpine lakes around the West Coast, and we'd want to make sure that, again, people are aware of the need to move away from lake margins. There are two different things that could happen around lakes. Firstly, what's known as a Seiche wave, which is essentially a sloshing effect where the lake margin sloshes with the movement of the ground motion. And the second one is the potential for a rockfall tsunami into a lake, which could generate quite a significant sort of rockfall tsunami event within lakes around the Southern Alps. I guess the other thing to think about are the sort of impacts and consequences on our communities, as the question actually asked. West Coast, anything that's sitting on liquefiable ground, for example, roads or bridges or buildings, are going to feel the effects of that. And so it's potential impacts on bridge approaches, the bridges themselves, and the ability then for this earthquake to isolate communities up and down the West Coast. So, people not being able to cross bridges and get around the way we like to be able to get around. So the potential for isolation of communities on the West Coast is quite a significant thing.